horror is hard to do right, especially when not relying on cheap, reliable jump scares. It's why the original Silent Hill trilogy are regarded as classics, while their many sequels and imitators are largely forgotten. Despite being the debut release from tiny two-person studio Rose Engine, sci-fi horror adventure Signalis joins that coveted pantheon as one of the best in the genre and a personal favourite from a jam-packed year. Played from an overhead perspective, there's a labyrinth of interconnected rooms to explore, many locked doors, a mixture of logical and more abstract puzzles, and an assortment of monsters to shoot. Inventory space is at a premium, healing is finite, and the game can only be saved at safe rooms where you can stash unused items in a storage chest. Aesthetically, it feels like a refinement of those PlayStation gems as well. Backdrops are pin-sharp, crisp pixel art, while characters are smoothly animated 3D models, always clear and always readable despite their relatively small size. The UI is similarly sharp, despite its diegetic retro tech aesthetics. Audio-wise, it channels the best in the business, with some very Akira Yamaoka industrial tones accompanying quieter moments, chaotic, panicked noise kicking in during combat, and an assortment of nostalgic tones, beeps and warbles accompanying menu actions. Puzzles are cleverly designed, stalling progress just long enough to deliver a eureka moment. The only truly unfamiliar mechanical element is the radio tuner. Found early on, it allows you to listen into and decode radio signals, sometimes just creepy numbers stations, other times key clues to items, and occasionally it even gets used in combat. While not game redefining, it's a consistent enough presence to put a refreshing spin on even Signalis' more familiar systems. Other elements are borrowed more directly from places like the Resident Evil 1 remake, including a panic item slot for escaping close combat, and a limited supply of incendiaries to burn corpses and permanently clear frequently travelled halls. While most similar to Resident Evil mechanically, its overall atmosphere hews far closer to Silent Hill, telling the story of a lone technician android named Elster descending into metaphorical and potentially literal hell in search of her missing co-pilot. It's a character-driven and emotionally charged story, an intentionally fragmented and dreamlike downward spiral following a potentially unreliable narrator. Where Elster goes, the player is dragged forcibly along, whether they want to or not. Signalis eschews sudden, loud scares in favor of making the player feel constantly insecure, from persistent resource scarcity to hard narrative curveballs. Enemies can rise again in once cleared locations, the game's perspective may suddenly shift from locked overhead to first person, and plot twists may carry heavy enough implications to demolish any previously held understanding of what is happening. So much of why Signalis works hinges on its world building. If it weren't for this additional depth, I don't think Signalis would stick the landing narratively. The moment-to-moment storytelling is intentionally fragmented, timelines are uncertain, and while Elster's goal is always to continue her search deeper into the facility, some elements are always vague enough to invite interpretation. It's hard to talk about Signalis without mentioning its many inspirations, which it openly and eagerly references, from nods to works of classic horror such as The King in Yellow, to sequences riffing on heavyweight anime like Ghost in the Shell and Evangelion. There's familiar touchstones everywhere. Famous paintings and haunting classical music both ground the game's setting in the familiar while further accentuating its more surreal elements in how they're used. There's just enough of the real world here, framed strangely enough to feel like a dream. Signalis is one of the best horror games I've played in years. Tense, upsetting, and thought-provoking. It takes 100 familiar elements, inspirations, and references and weaves them into something entirely new. and thoroughly worthwhile. Hello, I'm Griff, video producer at pcgamer, and I wanted to say that I actually disagree with some of the issues in the written review of Signalis. I think the inventory being limited works perfectly for this game, even better than in games like Silent Hill 4, which has a similar mechanic. It encourages really critical thinking about how you play, and the whole game feels built around it. To me, this game is a 98, not a 92. An astounding feat of visuals and story presented in a unique and striking way. And I swear I'm not at all biased by my love of classic survival horror, I promise. Now, I'm sure everyone will be glad I'm probably going to stop making videos about this game now.